Have you ever pulled leftovers out of the fridge, popped them into the microwave, and thought, if it's hot, it must be safe? What if that simple habit isn't always as harmless as it seems? Millions of people reheat food every single day, but very few stop to ask one important question. Is every food meant to be reheated the same way? The answer might surprise you, and by the end of this video, you'll know exactly which common foods deserve a second look before they go back on your plate. Leftovers are part of everyday life. They save time, reduce food waste, and make busy weekdays a whole lot easier. There's nothing wrong with enjoying yesterday's dinner for lunch today. In fact, properly stored leftovers can be just as delicious and nutritious as the original meal. But here's where many people get confused. You've probably heard someone say, never reheat rice, or reheated potatoes are dangerous, or microwaves destroy nutrients. Social media is filled with dramatic warnings that can make almost any leftover sound like a health hazard. Some of those claims are exaggerated. Others contain a small piece of truth, but the real issue isn't what most people think. The biggest problem often isn't reheating itself, it's what happens before the food is reheated. That's a distinction that many people miss, and understanding it can help you make smarter choices in your own kitchen. Today, we're looking at 4 foods that deserve extra attention when it comes to reheating. We'll separate myths from facts, explain what science actually says, and show you the simple habits that can help reduce food safety risks without creating unnecessary fear. And make sure you stay until the end, because the final food on our list surprises almost everyone. It's found in countless refrigerators across America, and one small mistake with it is incredibly common. Let's start with one of the most misunderstood foods of all, rice. If you've ever searched online for dangerous leftovers, rice almost always appears near the top. That sounds strange because rice doesn't seem like a risky food. It's simple, inexpensive, and eaten by billions of people around the world every day. So why does it get so much attention? The answer has less to do with reheating and much more to do with storage. Uncooked rice can naturally contain bacterial spores from a bacterium called Bacillus cereus. These spores can survive cooking. If cooked rice sits at room temperature for several hours, those spores may grow into bacteria that can produce toxins. Some of those toxins are not destroyed by reheating. That's the part many people never hear. People assume the microwave fixes everything. Unfortunately, if toxins have already formed because the rice was left sitting out too long, heating it again may not make it safe. Imagine leaving cooked rice on the kitchen counter after dinner because you're planning to eat it later. Hours pass. You finally place it in the refrigerator before bed. The next day, you microwave it until it's steaming hot. It smells normal, it tastes normal, but appearance and smell don't always tell the whole story. Does that mean you should never eat leftover rice? Not at all. It simply means you should cool it quickly, refrigerate it promptly, and reheat it thoroughly before eating. Food safety experts generally recommend refrigerating cooked foods within about 2 hours, or sooner if the room is very warm. It's a simple habit that can make a meaningful difference. Think about it like locking your front door. Locking the door doesn't guarantee nothing bad will ever happen, but it's an easy precaution that reduces unnecessary risk. Food safety works the same way. Small habits repeated consistently often matter more than dramatic rules. And here's something else that surprises many people. The microwave itself isn't the villain. Microwaves can safely reheat food when used properly. The important part is making sure the food heats evenly all the way through. Cold spots can allow bacteria to survive, which is why stirring food halfway through reheating is a smart idea. One simple change, one safer meal. Now, if rice surprised you, wait until you hear about the next food, because millions of people prepare it in advance every week without realizing where the real risk begins. Let's talk about potatoes. Potatoes are one of America's favorite comfort foods. Mashed potatoes, baked potatoes, roasted potatoes, French fries, potato salad. They're incredibly versatile, affordable, and filling. But like rice, potatoes have developed an almost mythical reputation online. Some people claim reheated potatoes are toxic. Others insist they should never be eaten twice. The truth is much more practical. Freshly cooked potatoes are generally safe to eat. The concern begins when cooked potatoes spend too much time sitting in the temperature range where bacteria can grow. There's another factor that people sometimes overlook. Baked potatoes wrapped tightly in aluminum foil should be handled carefully after cooking. The foil creates a low oxygen environment that, if combined with improper storage, can support the growth of certain harmful bacteria. That's why it's important to refrigerate leftover baked potatoes promptly instead of leaving them out for long periods. Notice a pattern? Again, storage comes before reheating. Let's imagine two families. Family A finishes dinner, leaves the potatoes on the table for 5 or 6 hours, then places them in the refrigerator before going to bed. Family B serves dinner, lets the potatoes cool briefly, then refrigerates them within the recommended time. The next afternoon, both families reheat their leftovers. One meal carries much less risk than the other, not because of the microwave, but because of everything that happened beforehand. That's a huge difference. Sometimes the safest kitchen habits aren't complicated at all. They're simply consistent. Another common mistake happens with mashed potatoes. Many people reheat them repeatedly, a little for lunch, the rest for dinner, then another portion the next day. Every cycle of cooling and reheating creates another opportunity for problems if the food isn't handled properly. Instead, consider reheating only the amount you plan to eat. Leave the remaining portion refrigerated until you're ready for it. It's a small adjustment that can help maintain both quality and safety. Now here's something interesting. Many people worry so much about nutrients disappearing during reheating that they overlook the much bigger issue of temperature control. Yes, certain vitamins are sensitive to heat, but nutrient changes usually happen during the original cooking process as well. The greater concern isn't losing a tiny amount of vitamins, it's preventing bacterial growth by storing food safely. That distinction matters, because once you understand it, food safety becomes much less confusing. Instead of fearing leftovers, you simply learn how to manage them wisely. And speaking of confusion, the next food has probably caused more arguments online than almost any other leftover: chicken. You've probably heard someone say reheated chicken is dangerous because the protein changes. That statement sounds scientific, but it isn't an accurate explanation. Proteins naturally change structure whenever they're cooked. That's completely normal. The real concern with cooked chicken is something much more familiar. Chicken is highly perishable. If cooked chicken isn't refrigerated promptly, bacteria can multiply quickly. Reheating chicken thoroughly can kill many bacteria, but it can't always reverse problems caused by improper storage or toxins produced by certain bacteria. Sound familiar? That's because we're seeing the same pattern again: storage, time, temperature. Those three factors matter far more than the act of reheating itself. And in the next part, we'll cover 2 more commonly misunderstood foods, explain why leafy vegetables and certain sauces deserve special attention, and reveal the everyday reheating mistake that many families make without ever realizing it. That final lesson may completely change the way you think about leftovers in your own kitchen. When it comes to leftovers, one of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming that if a food looks fine, smells fine, and tastes fine, then it must be safe. Unfortunately, foodborne bacteria don't always announce their presence. Many harmful microorganisms don't change the appearance, smell, or flavor of food at all. That's why food safety experts emphasize proper storage rather than relying on your senses alone. Now let's move on to another food that has been surrounded by confusion for years: leafy greens. Spinach, kale, Swiss chard, and other leafy vegetables are often praised as nutritional powerhouses. They're packed with vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and naturally occurring compounds that support overall health. Eating more vegetables is one of the simplest habits associated with a healthier diet. So why do some people say you should never reheat spinach? The answer is more complicated than most internet posts suggest. Leafy greens naturally contain nitrates. In healthy individuals, Nitrates found in vegetables are generally considered safe and are even associated with potential health benefits as part of a balanced diet. Some online articles claim that reheating these vegetables automatically turns them into dangerous compounds, but the scientific evidence doesn't support such broad claims for normal home cooking. The real takeaway isn't that reheated spinach is quote-unquote poison, it's that vegetables should be stored safely, reheated properly, and not left sitting at room temperature for extended periods. If you cook spinach for dinner, cool it promptly, refrigerate it, and reheat only what you'll eat, it's generally considered safe for most healthy adults. That's an important distinction because fear often spreads faster than facts. Social media loves dramatic headlines. Science usually tells a more balanced story. Think about how many healthy cultures around the world regularly eat leftover vegetable dishes. The key isn't avoiding leftovers altogether, it's handling them correctly from start to finish. Here's another habit worth paying attention to. Some people repeatedly heat and cool the same container of vegetables over several days. Every time food moves in and out of the refrigerator, it spends more time passing through temperatures where bacteria can multiply. Instead of reheating the entire batch each time, scoop out a single serving, heat only that portion, and return the rest to the refrigerator immediately. It's a simple change that helps maintain both quality and food safety. And that brings us to another food that surprises many people: eggs. Eggs are incredibly nutritious. They're rich in high-quality protein, vitamins, and minerals. But because they're also highly perishable, they deserve careful handling after cooking. Imagine making breakfast sandwiches for meal prep on Sunday. You cook the eggs, assemble everything, refrigerate the sandwiches, and enjoy them throughout the week. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. The important part is making sure the eggs were refrigerated promptly after cooking and reheated until they're hot throughout before eating. Problems usually arise when cooked eggs are left out for hours during a brunch, picnic, office meeting, or family gathering. Later, someone wraps up the leftovers, refrigerates them, and assumes reheating will solve everything. Again, reheating can destroy many bacteria, but it can't always undo the effects of improper storage. Notice how every example we've discussed points back to the same foundation: time, temperature, storage. Those three words are far more important than any internet myth about microwaves. In fact, many people blame their microwave when the real issue happened long before the food ever went inside it. Microwaves are simply tools. Like an oven or a stovetop, they're only as effective as the way we use them. One challenge with microwaves is uneven heating. You've probably experienced it yourself. The outside of your meal is almost too hot to eat, while the center is still cold. Those cold spots matter because bacteria may survive if parts of the food never reach a safe temperature. That's why stirring soups, casseroles, rice dishes, and pasta halfway through reheating is such a smart habit. It distributes the heat more evenly and helps ensure the entire meal is thoroughly warmed. Another helpful tip is allowing food to rest for a minute or two after microwaving. Heat continues to spread through the food even after the microwave stops, making the temperature more uniform. These small details might seem insignificant, but when combined, they create a much safer routine. There's another mistake that's incredibly common in busy households. People overload their refrigerators. When the refrigerator is packed tightly, cold air can't circulate effectively. Some areas may stay warmer than others, making it harder to keep foods consistently cold. A refrigerator works best when cool air can move freely around the food. It may sound like a minor issue, but maintaining a consistently cold temperature is one of the most effective ways to slow bacterial growth. Now, here's something that often surprises people. Food safety isn't about living in fear. It's about creating habits that become second nature. Wash your hands before handling food. Use clean utensils. Store leftovers promptly. Keep your refrigerator at the proper temperature. Reheat foods thoroughly. Those simple practices do far more to protect your health than following dramatic rules you've seen online. And we're not done yet. In the next section, we'll uncover one everyday reheating mistake that millions of people make without realizing it, a habit that has nothing to do with rice, potatoes, chicken, or spinach, but could affect almost every leftover meal in your refrigerator. Once you understand this final principle, you'll never look at leftovers the same way again.